And greetings and salutations, guys. Technicals Tinkers here, back checking in on our wonderful 3D print operation for today. I own a business and I'm trying to get into 3D printing as a subsidiary. That's all the exposition I'll do today. What am I working on my Cobras up here? Well, got another section of the Glock printing. If you saw yesterday's video, I was having some trouble with the surface. So made a few changes and I'm retrying the print. I tried the other section of the slide here on Cobra 3, and it does that thing. And if you've got a Cobra 2 Max or an Anycubic or any printer, really, I've never really talked about this issue before, but sometimes when it goes to start the print, it goes and homes, but as the print head comes down to right at the surface, the sensor will kind of bounce. It won't touch the plate, but it'll bounce, and then it'll go off and do its print. Well, sometimes these Cobras, it's just like the fourth or fifth time I've experienced this on several different machines. When it comes down, it just doesn't stop until it just gouges into the build plate as if the sensor wasn't even picking up or registering at all. And so usually I'll take the print head off, screw it down to where, bring it down like, I don't know, a 0.5 millimeter or something, and it usually corrects it. But I'm wondering why that's happened, because it's screwed in, it's never had an issue, and then suddenly it just does. So that one's down, decommissioned. Cobra 2's inactive, and Cobra 1, we're still printing that big section of the Glock. You saw yesterday, I got that promo filament from Ujoy Bio. Link in the description below if you want to check out their filament. Thank you very much. They sent me 2 rolls, and I'm just kind of messing around with it. My idea was to print a D20 cube, and again, I went back to the default, but again, kind of had some issues here, and then one of the supports broke off right where it always breaks off. So I think it's just a matter of putting in more support. Maybe the model, it's likely me not doing the support or the settings correctly, but as you can see, one of the supports popped off here just below the 8 and the 14, and I could see, when I came to check on it, it had ripped the support off. And so I'm not exactly sure, because I never had a problem with supports adhering to the plate. The plate's fine. It's just if I put in more supports, it's going to screw up the surface finish. And that overhang's about 27 degrees. And that's kind of, I usually try to dial it down to 20. And so if I dial it up just one more degree, it puts supports everywhere, and I kind of don't want that. Additionally, this is their copper metallic. I mean, I'll let you be the judge. You get some better lighting. Of course not. It's me. I don't have good lighting. So it's kind of a brown color. Again, if you want to check it out, I'd prefer probably the Polymaker, or the Overture rather, but again, it's an option. If you can believe it, lads, if you can actually believe it, I sold one. I sold an anti-tip drink holder nightstand thingy. They ordered it in green, so I'm printing it in green. Whoever the kind soul was that ordered this, I'm not sure if you're a viewer or if you're just someone browsing Etsy and decided to buy it. Thank you very much. It feels good to sell an original design, a simple design, and those are the best kind to sell. So we're gonna print that off and send it off to jolly old UK. Pip pop cheerio. All right, so just uploaded today's vlog. Today is Tuesday, and now we're going to examine another component of what I've described before as my favorite thing about 3D printing, aside from selling gun lamps and sexy cyborgs and giant guns. Functional prints for very specific problems. So you might notice the big gaping hole in my ceiling. Get a good shot. Okay, so big gaping hole in the ceiling. It used to have a projector up there and it would go to the screen there, but if you've ever had a projector, you can't really see them really good in the daylight. They're meant for a cinema experience. And me, I like the TV on 24/7, 365. That TV doesn't ever turn off, ever. So I took the projector out, but I'm left with this kind of big hole here, and there's no J box above it. So I can't really screw into it. Now, I did get just a round pad, but I think I'm just gonna print something very simple, because that's kind of an odd shape. I'm just gonna print a very super duper simple plate to cover the hole. I know you might say, hey, that's overkill, why not get, I mean, what else am I supposed to use? They don't make a specific product for that, because that's much larger than like a 2J or a 2-gang, blank plate. And there's nothing to screw into. I'd have to put anchors in. So if I'm gonna have to put anchors in, and anyway, I'm just gonna make a plate, print it, and stick it up there, and it'll be fine. Let's see how unscientific I can be about this and still get a successful result. I didn't measure that hole. I kind of held one eye open and did this and figured like, yeah, that's about good. This much and this much. So here we go. All right, this much. What am I doing with my life? All right, so this is about, let's just call it a 7x7 square. All right, so literally just gonna go into Tinkercad and make a, let's say 180 millimeters. How about it? And how thick are we thinking? Maybe 10 millimeters, something thick and robust. Let's be rebels here. Let's say 7, lucky 7. And so quite literally, this is what I got here. Little 7 millimeter thick plate, got 4 little 8 millimeter screw holes in it. I'm gonna print it out and stick it on there. All right, sent it to our best printer because that makes sense. And yeah, we'll see how it comes out. And so the real thing that I've been working on begrudgingly all morning is trying to get this F-wording 3D scanner to work out. Now, of course, I did not use the included little model that they send along with it. So they send along this little, bust for you to 3D scan. And I'm sure this is, just maxed out to be perfectly scannable. So what I wanted to do right off the rip is scan something a little harder. So I'm scanning my steampunk bull over here. I've had this thing for a long time, and I was like, that's got a lot of features and details. It'd be cool to 3D print that. So I've been running the Revo Point Mini 2 here, trying to scan it, and I've done it on high detail mode, standard mode, and over here, I'm currently doing it on high speed. It keeps losing tracking. The distances, because the model, I guess, is large. Maybe the Mini 2 isn't really meant for that. I tried doing it by hand, but that was a nightmare. And so I think maybe I'll kind of reset back to basics and start with a simpler model, dial in the settings and try to get it that way. Because ultimately what I want to use it for is over here on the car, because I'd like to scan the interior chassis of the car. And then maybe from that is a good base from which to build the shell that I've been looking for to lure, of course, my dogs. You can see my previous videos. I encourage everybody, go back and watch every single one of my videos all the way through, every single second of it, so I get more money. But I'm trying to build a shell that fits on it, but it's so complex. I thought, well, maybe this is good. And I thought the 3D scanner would be a good play because if I'm looking at functional prints, then it would be advantageous to have the scanner. That way, if I'm trying to design a part that's within a complex structure, then I can scan the structure and then build the part from within there instead of trying to measure out in 3 dimensions and then try to fit it in and constantly prototyping. So again, it's just good practice. It's another tool to learn, another gadget, another feather in the cap, if you will. So working on that, trying to figure it out. This is not going well. Finally, for this like midday wrap up, we've kind of come to a bit of a revelation here with the Colt Python, this big model. So the Colt Python is huge. It's pretty impressive, I think. There's a lot of areas I'd like to improve on. I do like these two-tone, sort of having the two-tone bullets on the inside. I mean, this is certainly the largest pew-pew model that I've made in terms of like length, because like I was saying, it's about 48 inches long, about 4 feet long, maybe about 24 tall or something like that. It's big. So I sold a Glock the other day, and when I put in like an advanced, yes, I see you. So I put in a Glock the other day, and when I went to ship it, I had overestimated my dimensions and weight, and it quoted me over $200 to ship it. And so I put in like precision measurements, and it came out to about 80 something. And so I started playing with it because it seems to be based on cubic inches. I mean, that's probably something a lot of people already know. In my previous life and previous manufacturing, we never shipped anything super large like that. And if we did, we shipped it on a pallet via freight. And so with these, it seems like if you go over just one dimension, like add 1 inch to one, plane, then the price goes from like say 80 something dollars up to $200, $300, $400, $500. So it seems like a very fine line in terms of size of these things. And unfortunately with the Colt Python, being that the size that it is, having a box that's like 50 inches long by 12 wide by 24 deep, it doesn't seem like there's any scenario where I'm going to be able to ship it for less than like a couple $100s. And at that point, I'm going to have to charge so much for the model. I don't think it's really going to be viable for anyone to buy, or certainly attractive for anyone to buy. So it's a back to the drawing board moment with this. I can still do it, but I'm going to have to slice the model, and I'm going to have to ship the model in parts. And that's something for art models that I feel is kind of like taboo. Like, you shouldn't have to have people assemble their art. But, you know, if I can get the size down, then I can sell it for reasonable cost. And it's not reasonable. I mean, I'm not an art guy, okay? I don't think any art's, you know, really necessary. But if I can slice it down, cut it down to size, then I can ship it for, or I can sell it for not as much. And it would just kind of be, you know, better for everybody. It's less for them, less for me, etc. Fortunately, that requires that I go back to square one and build systems into the model to where I can cut it and then add a function for it to be affixed or fastened together. So my thinking is, obviously here at the center point, that essentially cuts the model in half, but then it becomes a question of how do I fasten these? So my first line of thought was, well, I'll just kind of make this into a plug, and then it goes into here, and then, but can I really ask the person to glue it? And then they're trying to like perfectly glue it, and what if they screw it up? Then they're gonna be mad at me. I need to make it more idiot proof. And then my next thought was to send at probably a 45-degree angle a hole down here and include a bolt, and then do a heat set insert threading, so they can screw it in from here, and then probably at a 45 from under here. My audio is probably cutting in and out from me holding this model in front of my face like this. But that way it would affix it solidly into the rest of the model and kind of keep it all together. Again, the only problem is that it sort of necessitates that, one, I recut all the model, two, probably combine elements of it, mainly the drum, and kind of make it to where it can all fit together. And then I start thinking of, well, if I'm cutting it and they're assembling it, can I cut other parts off and have them screw that in too? Because they're already screwing stuff, and then kind of make it into this tight ball. And then it's like, how far do I really want to go with this? So it's kind of a lot of thoughts kind of combining. Obviously, I'm going to have to make a Colt Python version 2.0. So it's back to the drawing board on that. Unfortunately, that means I can't list it on Etsy and make sales on it. But then it makes me think about the Glocks, the atom bombs, other things like that, other these large prints. You know, does it make sense to try to chop those up and make them smaller so they ship easier? Is the customer perception going to be lessened if they're going to have to, you know, turn a screw? I don't know. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. I'm going to keep working on this, and this is the point in the video where I send it over to my future self tomorrow to see how it all worked out. And it is the next morning. Let's check in and see what came out last night. Ran out of filament over here, still trying the back section of the slide. Lots of comments coming in on the top surface, the bubbling issue. A lot of people saying it's volumetric flow, over extrusion, things like that. So I'm gonna see how that one turns out. That one didn't, this is on a different printer. That back section was on number 2, I think. And so this one is gonna come out, and that way I can identify if it is indeed a slicer setting. A lot of people saying, like, you know, you keep having the same mistakes over and over again. You're not changing anything. Well, I have different printers, and my only contention to that is that I think a lot of people maybe don't print really big models because, like, I've printed plenty of versions on, you know, other printers of the standard size of these models. They never have an issue whatsoever. But once you go big, I don't know, let me know what your experience is when you have really, really big models. Maybe things don't translate as well, or it's just simple, I don't know, physics that cause it to have errors that it wouldn't ordinarily have on a smaller version of it, you know, because that's just a lot of extra distance and space and material. That's kind of like what I was saying with, you know, why I was upping the number of top shell layers on some other models, or changing things to sort of compensate for the bridging extrusions. You know, like, why would you do that? Well, if the model's, you know, the normal size and this big, and it has a bridging that's this far apart, you know, sure, it can make that without issue. But when you scale it up and the bridging is, you know, this far apart, that's just a much longer gap. It doesn't scale because of, like, you know, weight and air and gravity or something like that. Anyway, that's how I'm thinking about it. So we're gonna see if that one comes out. We got, this bad boy did finish up. Ran out of filament on it. I think a couple times I was using partial spools. But overall, it seems to have come out pretty good. The inside is kind of grody. Kind of looks like a little spider web in there, but I did run these hot, so I did expect it to be a little stringy. But the outside looks pretty good. A prototype here. So with the lamps, some people were saying, like, you know, I had this head idea of putting like popular characters on a lamp, but I started thinking like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's overdone. Not to say that there's an excess of lamps for, I don't know, popular figures throughout history, but I got to thinking more about it. My thinking, it was maybe I should try at least to focus on some more topical stuff, some more current gen type things, just to capitalize on the popularity of it. So this model I just bought on Cults. It said in the description you can sell them, so I'm going off that. So it was like $5 for this model. This is that scary clown. The movie is called The Terrifier. Never knew that, but I've seen that clown on TikToks and things like that. So what I did was I just printed one all in black because I wanted to test the model to see how it would come out before doing like a colored version. And with the lamps, it seems like maybe the just solid color ones might look a little more elegant. I'm going to try a colored version, but this is the clown from that movie. Overall, considering the amount of support or the lack of support, the model seems to have come out pretty good. Now, I did simplify it one time. I simplified it down to like 100,000 something triangles, so you can kind of see, you know, the faceting of, you know, when you simplify a model like that. But I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference, so I scaled it up the maximum height I could comfortably, and I drilled a hole down through, or I didn't drill a hole, but I designed a hole down through it so it would fit into our lamp. I got to get this thing packed up. All right, so I'm over here in doing this model. I was painting it up just a little bit, trying to get like the major areas. But this clown has some like eyebrows and lips that, you know, I'm not gonna have to hand draw those in. You know, like these eyebrows and these like slits through his eyes, and, you know, just trying to like doll it up a little bit. But, you know, the major areas are painted and it's mostly all black and white, so easily can fit that on the A1 or the P1P if necessary. I'm just not sure if this will look better or if the all black and white model, so we'll find out. All right, so I've got the supports pulled off. Again, it doesn't look too bad, you know, it's simplified, but when there's no color to it, it really looks kind of a lot different without the, you know, the makeup and the eye color and stuff like that. But overall, decently clean model, you know, quality coming out of the Bambu. And this, I used the filament from UJoy Bio. Oh my gosh, I should have mentioned that. UJoy Bio, they're Hyper PLA. Link in the description below. Thank you, UJoy Bio, for sending me free filament. So let's take this and try to fit it. Where's my lamp? And a little short. I made it a little taller. All right. So overall, yeah, I could probably afford to make it a little taller or do a like some kind of baseline. I thought I'd measured this out because 10 inches is like 250, and that's the max height. And so the space between is 11 inches. So, you know, maybe like printing like some kind of supplemental thing, or just like leaving it like this, because if it's all the way tucked up against the top, maybe that's gonna like impede the light, and you want it down a little more so you can get more actual light from your lamp. But overall, movie rip-off lamps by Stinkers. So that's what is going on there. And the Revo Point Mini 2. Revo Point Mini 2, I'm gonna send it back because I kept testing after I had closed out the first part of the video and was looking around, and I knew that it wasn't really geared towards models that were large. It was geared towards smaller models, but I guess I didn't really grasp the concept of, like, in the 3D print world, the terms large and small are kind of seem to be defined. And this is evident by the number of people that tell me I should get rid of my Cobras and just get Bambus, and I tell them, well, Bambu doesn't make a large printer, and they're like, 256 is huge. Like, to me, large is like, you know, this, not, you know, this. So, like, when it says small things, the Revo Point Mini 2 is really meant for, I think I found it on their website, it's like they suggest models that are no bigger than like 150 by 150, and that's microscope, that's, you know, it's like this big. So I'm gonna return the Revo Point Mini 2, and I'm gonna start looking for another scanner that is has the ability to scan larger objects. because I don't need the fidelity of like down to 0.1 millimeters, because I downloaded Curie Engine on my phone, and that has the options of either LiDAR or photogrammetry. I think I'm saying photogrammetry correct. I did both on the Bull, which was the model I was trying to scan with the Revo Point. I got much better. I never actually finished scanning the model on the Revo Point because the Bull is just too large, because it's like this big. I tried scanning the little model they send with it, and of course it works fine, but that model is this big. And I just, the scanner works, so this is not a review or anything. The scanner works, but I just struggle to think like most people, average people, maybe it's me because I don't talk to average people or talk to, the other 3D print people. But how often are you scanning things that are like this big? I just, I guess if you're like, have a specialized purpose for it or something like that, but it seems to me most people would be looking for something that can scan small, medium, or maybe even large stuff. So it looks like I'm going to need like a handheld sort of thing. Maybe look at the Creality Raptor. It's more expensive, but it's like, I've kind of wet my feet a little bit with 3D scanners, and I see the potential. I see like, wow, this is something I definitely want to explore. So going to return that, maybe look at another one. Let me know what your suggestions are in the comments below. Because people are suggesting these models, but if you know about 3D scanners, what's something that can scan something that's like comfortably this big, or maybe even bigger, or down to something small? And again, I don't need 0.001 millimeter accuracy down to the finest level of detail. That's kind of what I'm going for, and I think the Raptor's kind of fallen into that line. It's over $1,000, but again, I'm a YouTube billionaire now, so it doesn't matter. Bitcoin's 100 grand, so I'm worth $1 trillion anyway, so I guess I can swing it. I'm still working on the Colt Python, as I was mentioning earlier, trying to figure out a way to join it together. I think a bolt solution is going to have to be it, but it's the redesign of the model that's kind of a bear. Some people have reached out offering to design some of my models for me, so if anyone wants to take a stab at it, I don't know how I could compensate you. Money. I'm glad to do that because, I've got the channel and I've proven the concept. So if anyone would like to take a stab at that, sort of integrating a functional print, and then maybe that'd be something good for me to learn from. If someone retools that print in order to accept like a bolt for people to bolt together, then after the fact, I can look at the theory behind it and say like, oh, okay, maybe I can apply this to future models or whatnot. Or we can forge a relationship of people who can tool models while I focus on looking pretty on camera, content creation, and finding new things to print in a very large size. So that's the 3D print update for today. Let me know what you want to see in the comments below. Be sure to like the video because it's a nice thing to do. Someone mentioned I should have my own version of gratitude game. That's not me. I've been grateful every single day of my life, well, at least for the past few years anyway. But that's not my style. I'm more of the cynical squad, I guess. So, cynical squad, let me know what you're cynical about in the comments below. Be sure to like the video and subscribe for more content like this. I'm the Technicals. See you next time.